Hey, welcome to Nerdabout Episode 2, a show about travel, food, culture, and general nerdifery. We are three good friends within the board gaming industry who, through chance, magic, and mystery, have ended up with some amazing stories about amazing cities. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves.
I'm Daryl Andrews. I'm a board game designer. Also, I do some consulting for Maestro Media. And according to Las Vegas City Hall, over 300 weddings take place every day. And one famous one from 2004, Britney Spears married at the Little White Wedding Chapel, but it only lasted 55 hours. Okay, less than 3 days.
Less than 3 days. Hello, everyone. I'm Beneeta Kaur. I'm a board game Twitch streamer and a social media consultant. And did you know that people in Las Vegas consume more shellfish in a day than the entire United States does in a year, which is insane.
That sounds delicious.
That is crazy. I'm Corey Thompson, co-owner of Above Board TV, co-host of Board Game Insider, and founder of Dice Tower Dish. And my weird fact, for every 4 Las Vegas locals, there's 1 slot machine. Plus, I just found out that all dice in Las Vegas used for gambling have to have square corners and not round.
What about D4s? Can they have rounded corners?
There's so little gambling with D4s, really. You just don't see that. So let's go ahead and talk about sites and hotels.
So Vegas has everything. It has cool sites, hotels, food, geekiness, but let's talk about all the cool hotels that Vegas has. So a lot of the hotels in Vegas are so themed. Like you got Excalibur, Circus Circus, Paris, Venetian, New York. And every hotel kind of has its own thing. For example, like the Venetian has like actual canals and like gondolas that you can go, like the real city, Venice. The Bellagio has a fountain show that's for free that everyone can go see. One of my favorite things is that in New York, there is a roller coaster on top of the hotel, where it's half inside, half outside. And and I've done it before, and it's terrifying. You have like 2 really big drops, but it's so cool because you get such a cool like view of the city.
Not for me.
No, you're not a roller coaster person?
I'm not a heights person. It hangs over the roof.
Yeah, I'm not a heights person either, but like sometimes I like to challenge myself and conquer my fears. It just like makes me feel alive, Corey. It just makes me feel alive. But yeah, so there's, all the really cool hotels. And then apparently the Sphinx in Luxor is bigger than the real one.
The Luxor is a really interesting hotel. A lot of people would go because it's a hollow pyramid, and you can take these elevators that are on the inside and they move diagonally up, and people would just ride the elevators for the experience. The crazy show exhibit going on at the Luxor now is the Bodies exhibit. These are real plasticized human cadavers put in various situations and open up. You can see everything. I think it's amazing. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Luxor is actually like attached to Mandalay Bay, which I know, Corey, you've been there.
All the veterinary conventions were at Mandalay Bay, so I know that one really well.
Yeah, I just stayed at Mandalay Bay, and I'll talk about it a little later when we talk about some geeky stuff. But my personal favorite, and always a shout out because I'm still chasing that Marriott sponsorship, is the Cosmopolitan. I got dreams, people, and so the Cosmo is my favorite. It's right next to the Bellagio fountain, so you can still enjoy that Ocean's 11 moment. It's got lots of great food inside it and entertainment, but that's my go-to spot in Vegas.
Well, we have Board Game Bree in chat, who Bree's going to be our guest later on. Bree lives in Vegas. Apparently, the elevators in Luxor are called inclinators. I did not know that. So that's pretty cool.
That's why we got experts. That's why we bring on an expert.
Every episode. We are
being fact-checked.
I love it. Real time.
Corey, tell us about the Sphere.
Oh, this is a new one, and I wish I could tell you more about it. I'm fascinated by it. It's a gigantic hollow sphere of LED screens. There's over 64,000 1,000 LEDs in this thing. Famously, the YouTube did concerts inside for a full immersive experience. They do all sorts of shows and experiences.
I tried to get tickets for that. It was impossible.
So
It looks really
a music
cool.
and entertainment arena. It's not technically in Las Vegas, but the interesting thing there is almost none of the strip is technically in Las Vegas. It's in the town of Paradise.
Yeah. Including the
Fun
sign.
fact, y'all. Fun fact.
The welcome to Las Vegas sign's not even on.
Yeah.
It's a little south.
And then, of course, you can't talk about Vegas without talking about the desert. And I had the great experience of taking a lot of the Dice Tower people out into the actual desert. And we hung out and we found burros out in the desert. It was great. Of course, they were someone else's and we got shooed away, but we found burros. So I have to recommend Red Rock Desert Park. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, that is one. I haven't been there before, and I've been to Vegas like quite a few times. So that's definitely something I need to add to my list. But we can't talk about Vegas without talking about like the numerous types of comedy shows. Every time I go, I like to go see a comedy show. My general go-to is Comedy Cellar. You can often find tickets for like pretty inexpensive. They generally don't have like any like big headliners, but like it's people practicing their stand-up. Generally a really good time. If you want to be heckled, make sure you sit in the first row. Sometimes you want to be, sometimes you don't want to be. But like other notable comedy clubs are like Brad Garrett's Comedy Club, who is the that actor from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yeah.
The LA Comedy Club and the Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club. And then, of course, you got so many Vegas shows, which I have not been to many, but I know Corey and Daryl have.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many. And there's music. Like, I mean, as a Canadian, Celine Dion was always like a legendary show I wanted to catch. I've never got to. The Blue Man Group's also, a super iconic.
It's one of my favorites. I love Blue Man. And Cirque du Soleil has so many own shows that all have their own character and nature, and it's a combination of dance, art, circus, juggling, and just contortion, everything. So you've got Ka. There's so many of them. And they're all.
I've never seen a Cirque du Soleil show. I really want to.
As a proud Canadian, I gotta give a shout out. Another little Canadian content. Cirque du Soleil comes from our beautiful province of Quebec. So the group started there at least. And then I know Corey, you have connections, and even our guests later. But I got to see just a couple years ago, which was a kind of life goal, was to see Penn and Teller. Tell us about your connection with
Penn was a friend of the family when I was a kid. Penn and my dad would hang out and do geeky stuff together. So whenever I'm in Vegas, especially one of the conventions, Dice Tower West, is at the Rio where Penn has his show. We usually, he'll get me tickets and we visit a little bit. So it's nice.
So I love that you just like, casually Penn as a friend. Like that is just like if you spend any time with Corey, that's like just like his common phrase. Like, you're a friend of the family.
Such a Corey moment. Such a Corey moment.
Just making fun of me now.
I am not making fun of you.
No, we love it. I love it. Yeah. It's so fun. And then the last site that I know I've done. Have either of you ever been on the High Roller?
Yes, I have.
Technically, I charged my car under it.
Okay. There's some parking spots there.
There's parking spots in a charging field underneath.
Good to know. Another useful, helpful tip, because I know. Again, you're not a heights person, but it's 550 feet off the ground. But the cabins, they're pretty awesome because you can even organize a group, and you can even have a bartender in the.
It's crazy how big those cabins are.
Yeah, they fit about like 40 people, and you can get a happy hour ticket, which obviously my friends and I bought happy hour tickets, and then
obviously
like an open bar. Obviously, it's an open bar. You're there for like 30-40 minutes, and go at night. Pro tip: go at night. It's much cooler looking.
Yeah. The lights of Vegas, like it's iconic. So, but obviously. We're already slipping into our next topic. So, Corey, why don't you talk about, we love food and drinks. Where's the first place you'd go in Vegas?
Well, I'll tell you, this was a really rough assignment doing food and drink in Vegas because there are so many of the top restaurants that are so good. The first one I need to talk about, it's off strip, and I was told about it by Crystal Dax, and it's the Cornish Pasty Company. It is just Cornish pasties. They have 40, 50 different kinds of meat pies that are the most delicious things in the world. Traditional sides, we've got, the smashed peas, mushy peas, all the traditional sides, and giant long tables. So we would go there with groups of 20, just all at one table. And so delicious.
Yeah, super yummy.
But Crystal took me for my first time too. I think Crystal is like the Cornish pasty company and like champion. She should honestly be sponsored by them.
She's been the pusher.
It was so good. And I had a chicken, there's obviously the traditional one, but I got the slightly spicier chicken tikka masala.
I got that one. It was so good.
Yes. So there's a lot of options.
Stew. They have a lot of really good ones.
Yeah.
And of course, like Vegas is the land of buffets. Just anywhere you go, there's going to be a buffet, and they're all pretty good. And it's this balance, for me at least, it's this balancing act between price and snootiness. So absolutely, the snootiest buffet, in my opinion, at a reasonable price is the Wynn. I try to go every time I'm there. The Wynn buffet, Bellagio buffet, a little snootier, a little yummier, a lot more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. Again, my shameless plug of Cosmo. I love their buffet. It's a little on the pricier side, but they have great selection. A pro tip: some of the buffets are all the time, but they really go full out on the weekends. So make sure you plan on Saturday, Sunday. I mean, you can get our fun fact about shellfish. Like, there's a reason is because these buffets are just churning. Crab and
do not discount the breakfast. So breakfast
but
buffets
I will say,
are
if you're waiting, there is a caveat to all this. There always is going to be, for the most part, a line. I remember going to the Cosmo. My friends and I went to Wicked Spoon, which I believe is in Cosmo. Spoon.
That's the Cosmo one. Yeah.
And we saw the line, we started standing in it, and then we heard from someone it's gonna be another 2 hours, and it's Vegas. We were hungover from going out the night before, so we said absolutely not. I can't wait 2 hours in line. So be aware that for some of these places there is a line.
If you're staying there, you actually can cut the line.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
In Vegas, you can on a moment's notice hire a nurse to give you an IV fluid infusion to cure your hangover.
Yeah, true story.
I heard about that. I've never done it, but maybe this time.
No comment.
I may know a few people that use that service at the last licensing expo.
That's amazing. So one of my favorite restaurants in Vegas is Nobu. So Nobu is it's in the Caesars. There's one in LA, Malibu. Nobu is everywhere. There's one in DC.
So ridiculously good.
It's so good. There's a few dishes.
I went with you.
Yes, Daryl went with me. It was me, Daryl, and it was Brayden Najjar and Miguel. So it was the four of us, and that was kind of our first year of friendship too. And so it was amazing dinner. So some of the notable dishes is you can't talk about Nobu without saying the black cod with miso, which is marinating for 72 hours. So it tastes so buttery and delicious. But some of my other things that I really like there is the yellowtail jalapeno because they top it with fresh cilantro, a serrano pepper, and yuzu soy sauce, which I love yuzu sauce. And then my next favorite thing is probably the spicy tuna crispy rice. So it's take the cubes of rice, they fry them, they dip them in soy sauce, and they top it with fresh tuna. So it's almost kind of like a poke.
I've done
type of
the
thing.
Nobu at Paris. I've done a couple times. So delicious. But interesting aside, I went to Nobu in San Diego with a big group, and Dave Chappelle crashed our party.
Hey,
really? That's so cool.
That's awesome.
Just walked in, sat down, had food. It was great.
Yeah, that's right at the front of the gas lamps. If you ever, I'm sure we'll do an upcoming San Diego episode, and
we have to. We have to.
There's a lot of great spots there.
So there's a lot of famous restaurants around too. Notably, there's Hell's Kitchen, which there's a lot of different Hell's Kitchens around, but it's interesting if you like the show and you're interested in that sort of thing. The other interesting side about the restaurants that are around is the whole Michelin star thing. We often like to talk about starred restaurants and famous restaurants. So I found out that Vegas has not been awarded any Michelin stars since 2010 and is actually not on the list of cities that get Michelin stars. And they cited economic climate. But restaurants that received stars in 2010 sometimes still talk about having stars.
Yeah, they still brag about them.
They stopped even looking at Vegas back then.
Yeah, it's not on.
What does that mean? Economic climate. What does that mean exactly?
It is the only description I've found. But the only 3-star restaurant in Vegas forever and ever was Joe Robuchon's restaurant in the MGM Grand.
Yeah, that was incredible. I went there with my wife on my 40th. And
that's so cool.
Oh, it was an amazing meal. There was so many courses. And then I remember they also had like a bread cart. And I worked my way through every bread. I remember.
That sounds like a very Daryl thing.
I was just like, I gotta conquer it all. I gotta taste everything.
They would be insulted if you didn't take something.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of classics. What are like the old school spots? Corey?
Well, I mean, the famous Vegas restaurant, the Rat Pack, gotta go kind of place is the Golden Steer Steakhouse. Been around since 1958. It is really a ridiculously good steakhouse.
Oh yeah,
and it's everything you'd expect. Silence leather chairs. You expect cigars and cognac, and large, huge pieces of meat that are perfectly cooked. So worth a visit. It's a really cool place.
Yeah, a couple favorites for me when I'm in Vegas is also hitting up tiki bars. Shocker for anyone who doesn't know. But it keeps that vibe, that Vegas vibe of like Rat Pack times and stuff like that, the tiki vibe.
Sure.
So I have to give a shout out for Frankie's Tiki Room and the Golden Tiki. Those are a couple of my favorites that you really can't go wrong. The Golden Tiki is off the strip, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about things farther, not in the new or old. Where else should we be eating?
Well, this was a really interesting one that our guest Bree brought to my attention. I hadn't been, but a lot of times chefs that get famous on strip for working in famous restaurants will then go off strip and open their own place. And the example that's now on my must go list is former Nobu chef Kevin Chung started Japanero, which is off strip, and it's a fusion Japanese sushi restaurant, and that
sounds amazing.
It sounds so good. So there's a lot of gems, and if you go off strip, you tend to lose a lot of the crowds as well.
Right.
So that's one that I definitely have to go to. Maybe tomorrow.
You're just gonna fly there and pop in?
I'll just pop in.
I love it.
Well, I'm going to Vegas in a week, so I think this is going to go on my list. So I will, and I'll try it for us. Just let you know if it's good or not.
Take one for the team. You'll
take one for the team. I got your back.
I mean, and then I have to give a shout out for Chinatown. On Spring Mountain. It's just off the strip. They have tons of great food from China, Vietnam, Korea. A couple that I have to highlight is Lotus of Siam, which is it focuses on Northern Thai, and talking about when Michelin stars and such were being given out. It actually the main chef, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce her name, but she was actually the first Asian-born chef to win a Beard Award for cooking cuisine of her homeland, which is, I just think, dope.
Wow.
And actually, even the late great Jonathan Gold and Gourmet magazine both said that the Lotus Siam was the best Thai restaurant in the United States.
Those
are some pretty massive.
I'm going to have words about that when we do Portland.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, maybe we, there's something since Jonathan Gold that's now overtaken it, but it's a a must go to. And then personally, my favorite sushi restaurant that I've ever experienced is right on Spring Mountain, and that's Kabuto Adome Sushi. They have their fish flown in. They only have 22 seats, so you have to book far in advance. I went with Erica Boyoris on her birthday, and she barely ate anything, which was awesome because I ate most of her 20-course meal. So
this is why you never invite me to go to these restaurants with you, because I eat too much.
Right. You're eating just as much as me. You got to bring someone who's like tapping out after 5 courses, and you get the next 15.
We can do some damage.
So speaking of eating a lot of food, so I have to talk about Bizarre Meat. So Jose Andres is a chef I really like. I think he for his public policies and just he is a really good chef. So Bizarre Meat is and I'm saying it's Bazaar, like bizarre, like that way. It's just it just celebrates being a carnivore essentially, which I am. And they have different chef tasting menus. And so I went with Casey, Rain, and Jar, and it was just a girls' night. The two of us went and we did the fancy tasting menu because we saw the menu and we're like, we want everything on this menu. So we're like, look, we got to do the chef's menu. And some of the things that really stood out were the cotton candy foie gras, the bison, which was made buffalo style, and then obviously the Japanese Wagyu beef, which came with an authentic certification of authenticity.
Wagyu authenticity, yeah.
Yeah, and I did not know that this was a thing, but apparently a lot of restaurants like to claim that they have Wagyu. But it's not real, or it's just fake. And they're they bring the certificate on next to a bonsai tree and present it to you, being just so you know, this is authentic Wagyu beef. I'm like, this is crazy. I love it.
I'm a big fan of Jose Andres. He started the World Kitchen and does some really cool interactions around the world. Ukraine, Palestine, Israel, things like that. They've done a lot of reaching out to those in need, and so somewhere like that's a real treat, but you're also supporting a cool cause.
That was great.
We talked a little bit about Chinatown. Just wanted to throw out there's also a Little Ethiopia, which is absolutely amazing. I love Ethiopian food. I've had Ethiopian in Little Ethiopia, and it is such an experience. I went to one of the restaurants and they actually made coffee into a full event. They roasted the beans in front of you, and roasted them to just the right level, ground them, made the coffee. It was like a tea ceremony almost. It was so good. So all the places in Little Ethiopia, fantastic.
Wow, good tip. I mean, I love that roti bread, so it's hard to go wrong.
Roti is Indian. It's the
sorry, not roti.
Injera.
Injera. Thank you.
It's gluten-free, by the way.
Oh. My last shout out for restaurants. I mean, we could do a whole nother show, I'm sure.
I know.
We could do this for hours.
But my personal favorite restaurant, it's not super expensive. It's in the MGM Park, and that's Best Friend. It was started by Roy Choi. Anyone who's seen the movie Chef back in 2014 that features Jon Favreau, it kind of follows a loose story of his in LA, where it's like a food truck that has a bit of a journey. And so they actually have the food truck there. You can get lunches from the food truck or go to the restaurant. It's my personal favorite go-to, and it's not something you have to reserve far in advance or anything like that.
Yeah.
So good. I ended up going there with the Dice Tower. The food was absolutely incredible. Could not hear a word that anybody else at the table was saying. It was so loud inside.
Were you in the front area, the bodega, or were you in the back?
No, the bodega area.
Yeah, they have two different areas. So I got a shout out for a Best Friend. They have something called slippery shrimp, and it's this very spicy type of shrimp. And then their kimchi fried rice is so good. Yeah. I love Best Friend, and I like that. And I've been there multiple times. Went to the bodega area, went to the restaurant area. They're both very different vibes, but they're both very cool. And then finally, I got to talk about Tao. Tao's one of my probably my favorite restaurant in Vegas. It's in the Venetian, and it has similar vibes to Nobu, but but it just edges out Nobu by a little bit. So they have a miso glazed Chilean sea bass, while Nobu has a cod, and I think I prefer the Chilean sea bass over the cod. They also have the spicy tuna and tartare and crispy rice, and then they have this their chicken goiza. They like pair it with like pretty hot chili peppers, so it's like a spicy chicken goiza. Anyway, it's so good. If you're in Vegas, you should go to Tao. I love it. It's amazing. But let's hear about Vegas from our special guest, Bree. Hello, Bree. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Welcome. So, Bree, we have questions for you. Tell us something super cool about Vegas that we probably don't know about.
So there's so many just like bizarre little tidbits about Vegas, but one of my favorites that not a lot of people seem to know outside of Vegas is that we have a huge Hawaiian population. In fact, more than 40,000 Hawaiian people live in Vegas, and it's sort of casually referred to as the Ninth Island as a result.
That's awesome. No wonder I love it.
We are the second largest metro population of Hawaiians after Honolulu.
Wow.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's wild. That's really cool.
Yeah, and my understanding is that there's a lot of people who grow up with the hospitality culture in Hawaii and then move here because there's lots of opportunities to work in that field.
Sure. Yeah, lots of great resorts and whatnot in Hawaii. Why not bring it over? That makes a ton of sense. Huh.
Okay, so Bree, does it really stay in Vegas?
No, come on. Don't you know the first rule of It Club? Can't talk about that.
That's my fault. That question's entirely my fault. I apologize.
Okay, Bree, I have to ask, what is your favorite Vegas restaurant? Because we were talking about food this whole time.
So I have a lot of favorites. My go-to for a long time was Lotus of Siam, which Daryl mentioned, and it's still very high on my list.
Yeah.
It's just, there's just so many options.
Sure.
So Japanero that I told Corey about recently, I will go there. It's actually like just a couple of miles from my house. Anytime anyone is in town and you want to go, I'm in, but it's very small. And even on like a random Tuesday, it's packed and you need a reservation. Like you can't get in.
All right.
So reservations in advance for Japanero. But one that you haven't talked about is there's a hidden Thai place in like the northwestern part of town. It's called Nataya's Secret Kitchen, and it is a surprisingly well kept secret, but they do very well. And it's Thai food. It's more casual than Lotus of Siam.
Right.
Doesn't have the walk-in wine cellar, that sort of thing, but it's still very upscale food, and really just like anytime you're in town, happy to go there.
Amazing.
You're making me hungry.
I know. Thai is like one of my favorite cuisines, and I could just eat it like all the time. So Bree, tell us what you're working on right now.
So we have Arcane. I work for Arcane Wonders. I'm marketing manager for Arcane Wonders. You can see lots of our games on the shelf behind me, and also my sleeping kitty Samus right here. We have a ton of new releases still to come this year. So we have Foundations of Metropolis, which wrong side. It's right here. This is actually out. This just hit stores last week, and this is the retail version of Foundations of Rome, which is a light to medium weight city builder. Foundations of Rome is a giant box and giant price tag to go with it. Foundations of Rome has plastic minis, where Foundations of Metropolis has cardboard polyomino pieces, but otherwise the gameplay is the same. But this one is smaller on your shelf and lighter on your budget.
Absolutely.
And then the other one, we have like 6 more new releases this year, which is crazy. But the one I'm the most excited about,
it's crazy,
is
I played that. It was so crazy.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. This is the Japanese version. Our version, when we release it very soon, will be a white box, and we've made some changes to the graphic design, but nothing significantly altering the gameplay. We will be releasing that at Essen, So
I'm so
if you're
excited.
going to Essen and you want a copy, we have it up for pre-order on our website for pickup.
Amazing.
We also have Foundations of Metropolis and not Floresta. Sorry, that's going to be at a partner's booth. But Mezen, that's over here. We also have Kraftwagen Age of Engineering and Video Game
I'm excited
Champion
about the new Kraftwagen.
and Video Game Champion and Vegetable Stock, all available to pre-order for pickup at our Essen booth, and they're all scheduled to be released before the end of this year.
I got to play Kraftwagen with Julie and Robert a few months ago, and that was my first time ever playing it.
Ooh.
And it was so good. I'm very excited for its release, but I also kicked Robert's ass, and he was super salty about it. He was there.
I was there. I can attest to this. So to be fair, Beneeta, Robert is super salty anytime he loses.
I was just gonna say, when is he not salty?
That's true. That's kind of.
But he was especially salty because this was his a game that he really likes a lot, and it was my first time playing, and I was like, yes.
That's funny. Very fun. All right, well, Bree, we really appreciate you being our go-to expert for Las Vegas, and we're going to bring you back. Continue to please fact check us and join us in the our last question. But we're going to have you, magically hide away backstage, and we will jump into our geekiness section. I mean, naturally, right away, when I think Vegas, I think movies. Like my instinct is thinking about all the kind of classics and non-classics. I mean, starting from recent, well, it's not even that recent, but the Ocean's 11s and Hangovers, the Vegas Vacation, Swingers, Casino, even the iconic Rain Man scene. Those are the thoughts in my mind why Vegas is built up.
I got to eat a dinner in the fountains in that iconic little table that they had in Oceans.
That's so cool.
Oh, that's so cool. I love those. Are such cool movies.
Yeah, they're the best. So that's what's in my mind and in my visuals. And so I decided for my 40th, I mentioned it earlier, I tried to hit as many of the restaurants we were talking about, but also it was all crowned around going to Dice Tower West. So Dice Tower West, funny enough, is another major connection point for all of us here. It was the first time I met Corey in person. It was near, as Beneeta mentioned, when we started hanging out and going to restaurants and checking things out. And originally, I had been wanting to go for a long time because it was started by Tim Mediver, who owns Meepleville, and he used to run MeepleCon. And I had just always been wanting to go. And so Tim invited me to come experience it as a special guest. And, I loved it. It was a great way to break into my 40s, where else than in Vegas.
I think that Dice Tower West where we met was the first Dice Tower West. It was the first time MeepleCon had turned into Dice Tower.
I think you're right. And now there's another kind of newer show in the city. It's coming up to its third time, and Beneeta's going. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes. It is called the World Series of Board Gaming. So it's starting on Sunday of next week.
It's in 3 days, man.
It's not in 3 days. It's on Sunday. It's in
five.
It's in 5 days. It's in 5 days. Math.
Don't steal those 2 days from Beneeta. She's got things to do.
I had to practice. I had to practice Splendor. So it is just it's an annual event. It's held in Las Vegas, and there's 16 different tournaments. Hundreds of people are going to competing, but they're only we call them ring events, and you go home and it's like an actual tournament. You're going to go home with cash money and prizes, and they generally change what games are in the tournament, but there's some staples like Ticket to Ride, Splendor. There's going to be a Radlands tournament, Castles of Burgundy. I personally am going to be in the Splendor tournament and the Lost Ruins of Arnak tournament. And listen, I have no expectations about winning. I just don't want to lose in the first round. I want to at least make it a little bit. That's all I want. I just don't want to lose immediately.
Yeah, that's a good goal. I will give a shout out. I've never been, but I got to watch some footage for a documentary called The Hobby, where some of that film takes place. They filmed at the tournament, and just seeing the reactions, it was incredible. Winning and losing, but there was some really, really heart-touching moments. I can't wait for that film to be out so that people can see some of that, because they interviewed players, they interviewed judges, they interviewed the commentators, etc. So.
Yeah, the World Series is a great show, and I have a lot of friends who are on the board for the World Series. Stephen Bonacore, co-host on Board Game Insider, and Danielle Standring on the board for World Series, and they're always telling me all these amazing things going on. It's turning into a real go-to for the gaming community.
Yeah, it's
really. You should come, Corey. You should come.
I have to go somewhere else tomorrow.
That's fair. That's fair. He's a busy individual, and I know my first time actually going to Vegas. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. Is Gamma used to meet there? It was actually, you mentioned MeepleCon. The idea was that it sandwiched with Gamma, and people would actually even stay after Gamma for MeepleCon. Now, obviously, we know Gamma has moved around, went to Reno, now Louisville. It's happening February 23rd to 27th next year. But my first time, I didn't go to Vegas at typical time. My first was for a Gamma. And I remember that my favorite kind of like, I know I'm in Vegas and this is a different show, was we went to the old school area of the Golden Nugget and all that. We were there real late, having a good time. And the next morning we had a meeting, and I remember it felt like the March of Death. But the funniest thing was, in the meeting, we all of a sudden had one of our, I won't say his name, but a coworker stumbled into the room like halfway through the meeting, and just like clearly had not slept, and like it was a rough night. And they came in, and we were like, "Are you all right?" And they're like, "Vegas, whew." And we were just like, "Oh yeah," and then they're like, "I gotta go to bed," and they just walked out. And
my God.
I can't say that person was employed for too much longer. It was a weird moment, but wow, I was like, okay, like some people when they go to conventions, like you gotta be careful, you gotta be mindful, because Vegas is so famous for these epic conventions, and there's everything you can do all night long. So make sure you go to bed. Make sure you prepare yourself. A few conventions that I want to give a call out for. I mentioned already the licensing show. I love it. I go every year now. It's only been twice, but I'm hooked. And that's May 20th to 22nd at the Mandalay Bay. They do hilarious things, like they did a drone light show. They had CeeLo last year, Ja Rule the year before. Just awesome. wild and crazy things while also getting business done. Yeah, another one that I want to give a shout out for, I have never been, but I've heard cool stuff about, and I think it's continuing to grow, is Toy Fest.
I went last year.
Oh, you did? What did you think?
Yeah, because it was right before Dice Tower West, and I arrived early, and I had never been to a toy show before, and this was a nice little mix of board game and toy. Everybody was ridiculously friendly. I had a really good time with it. It was
That's cool. Well, I want to hit that one up. It's said to now be at the point where they think they have 500 to 600 different producers, manufacturers, and that 1,000+ products they're claiming will be there this coming February 19th to 21st.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
So I also, while there have been, trying to hit up one that I tried to hit up and I missed it last year, and I might try this coming year, is that EDC happens just before the licensing show.
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's the Electric Daisy Carnival. So
I'll go to EDC with you, Daryl.
Yes.
Okay.
I love you saw it here. You saw it here first, people. So hopefully Beneeta will join me. Maybe we can get Corey too. And
Corey, you want to vibe in Vegas.
It's technically, it does take over Vegas, but it's actually like on the outskirts. But there's 200+ DJs, 500+ performers.
So much fun.
Wow. When I landed, the Uber drivers were so happy that I was just a normal drive. instead of like driving out to EDC in the middle of nowhere, but no one's moving because it's like only a few lanes. And they were complaining of like driving an hour or two for something that normally only takes them 20, 30 minutes.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
You know what you need for that sort of traffic? What you need is a tank.
Oh.
So
what would you do
actually So in Las Vegas, there's this thing called Battlefield Vegas. You can actually rent a tank. You can run over cars, and you can shoot the gun.
Wow.
You can do anything in Vegas. It's just a question of
You
cost.
really can.
I mean, you've
this
been
was
to a
like
shooting.
The most ridiculous thing.
You've been to a shooting range too. Didn't you do a video about that?
Above Board did. We ran with the premise of if a board game player were to protect themselves with a game, what game would work best to stop a bullet? The proverbial Bible in your pocket.
Right.
Oh my God.
Let's just say that Frosthaven stopped to 45.
I don't think this little guy would do much.
No, I don't think that little codenames will stop anything.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fair.
No. The game of life, though, will not protect your life. We
won't protect your life. So watch, people out there, watch that video. It's super hilarious. And Above Board in general. We just love their videos. So please check their stuff out. A few other just super memorable things that I know y'all have done or seen or heard of. One is the Pinball Hall of Fame. Have you guys been to the pinball?
No, I have not been to that
I'm a big pinball guy, so I've been to a lot of Pinball Hall of Fames and pinball arenas and things like this. It's a great one.
It's a great one. They just moved just a few years ago. So now they've moved into a space that's 25,000 square feet and it is packed.
That's a lot of pinball.
That's a lot of pinball. So
it is a lot of pinball.
Check that out. You can also, it's a really great opportunity to take a picture with the Welcome to Vegas sign because they're near each other.
I want to talk about Meow Wolf.
Oh, so, you have to. I love Meow Wolf. Please
is
talk about that.
Artistic setup. There's a number of Meow Wolves across the U.S. I think there's about 5 of them. But Meow Wolf in Vegas is this large, huge artist setup with huge, enormous, crazy designs that mess with your head. But the most impressive part is Omega Mart.
Yes.
I don't want to give too much away. Omega Mart is a fake grocery store.
Yeah.
You walk in,
or is it?
Looks like a grocery. Or is it?
Or is it real?
And you walk around, it's got really odd products and things, but you
can buy. You can buy those products.
You find a story, a weird, occult, apocalyptic story hidden within Omega Mart. There's secret passages and weird rooms and things to discover. It really, you explore it on your own. You could go multiple times. You get a little scan card to scan your way around and solve puzzles. Yeah. I got to go because Bree took me. I had never heard of it. I didn't know anything about it. So Bree introduced me to this, and it was the craziest thing I've ever done. It was so fun.
So
I've done Omega Mart, and it's so cool. And Omega Mart is in an area called Area 51. And it's just like a cool like vibe. Like that whole area is like off the strip, and you know there's like a bar there, there's restaurants, and there's like also other experiences too. But definitely like a place to go check out.
The whole area is cool.
Blacklight zip lines and strange sculptures and music.
I'm sad about, but I did actually do a really cool experience, but unfortunately it's closed, so I didn't want to plug it in the food and drink section. But there was an experience called the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea that was attached to that area, and they did their own rums, and then they did this whole curated meal. So that was really cool. But I hope they continue to build up those kind of things in the area because it's quite a unique and special area. And Omega Mart alone, I went back-to-back days. I went one time very sober, and then I went back very high, and it was really fun, totally different experiences. So I highly recommend. So but from there, let's jump into our last question. The time has flown by. We want to invite Bree back into the chat, and as she's there she is, magically appears on the stage.
My Meow Wolf buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have a good time at Meow Wolf?
I did. I absolutely adore it. I'd recommend it to anyone who comes to Vegas.
I love it. So
Yeah.
with our last question, I'm going to give you the most time, Bree.
Okay.
I'm gonna put Corey on the spot to be our first one.
What?
We'll go. Yeah, sucker.
All right.
And then obviously because I'm controlling this, we might as well make Beneeta go second. We'll do a little zigzag.
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. And our question, we'd love, in chat if you want to jump in if you have an answer for this. But our question for our episode today is best board game with a Vegas feel. So it could be Vegas themed, it could be betting, it could be you name it. But what's kind of Vegas-y? Maybe it's about great restaurants. Maybe it's about great sites. I don't know. But what are some of your predictions in chat? Please help us out. I have a little bit of a list, but I don't want to give those away yet. Let's talk about our list after we hear each other's choices.
Sure.
So, Corey, are you ready? Do you got your pick?
I am ready. I picked a little bit of an obscure one. I picked Gang of Dice by the good Dr. Reiner Knizia.
Gang of Dice? I mean, I guess that could be a choice.
I have never heard of this game.
I know. It's got a
Dice.
gangster thing. It's got a push your luck thing. It's got a gamble thing.
Okay. I see it. It feels Vegas-y.
It feels Vegas-y in that, Godfather kind of way.
Tell Beneeta about it. She doesn't know it. I played it with you, actually.
Gang of Dice is great. It's a push your luck dice game. You have dice behind your screen, a lot of them. You have like 30 dice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I like that.
And something comes up in the middle, and it might be no two of your dice could be the same. And you start gambling. You say, well, I can roll 3 dice and meet this requirement. And the next player might go, well, I can roll 4 dice and meet this requirement. And you go up and up and up. And whoever, you try to outdo the previous person who did it. And if you meet the requirement with the most dice, you win all of the dice everyone rolled. And you get to put them all behind your screen. Yeah. So you go through a whole bunch of these, and then you count how many dice you have, and that's the winner.
Yeah.
It's put out by Mandu Games. Unfortunately, a little hard to get. It was a Korean release originally, but it is such a fun, goofy, push your luck dice game with explosions and gangsters.
Yeah.
So,
really good.
It
was repped by ForgeNet. For anyone who's curious about, there are board game agents in the world, and that was one represented by them. So, fun fact there.
Okay.
Beneeta, what's your pick for best Vegas feel board game?
So we're going to kind of continue this dice theme because gambling is very Vegas. And my favorite is Las Vegas Royale, which is like kind of like re-implements Las Vegas and Las Vegas Boulevard. This is like the newest version of it. And this is by Rudiger Dorn and it's put out by Aaliyah. And Rudiger Dorn makes like really good classic, like entry-level, gateway-level board games. And this game is basically a bunch of mini games. You're rolling a bunch of dice and you are like if you roll a few ones, all those ones are going to go to the one section. The board kind of looks like a rondelle. And some are like they're all different mini games. This version has like 12 different expansions, so it's very modular. And like some of them is like you're calling out numbers, or some of them is that you're gambling for later. It's just like such a crazy time where there's so many people are yelling and shouting. And I had to say that there's a podcast I listen to, Going Analog by Shu and Christina. And every year they kind of like run a mini Las Vegas Royale tournament, and the winner gets to say in the suite that the party is thrown in. Ooh. And so earlier this year, Casey and I competed, and Casey won. So we got to stay in this fancy suite in the Cosmopolitan. So shout out to the Going Analog podcast who introduced me to this game. And it is such a fun game. Kind of hard to find. It's such a good game.
That version's hard to find. There is a Dice Cube version that was in Target for a while, and but it misses all those cool mini games. I just played this on Friday.
Did you really?
Yeah, I just played it on Friday. It's one of Eric Lang's favorite games, so he was adamant that we play it. And we found out that also was over Sean Jackman and Michael Guglielmo, and Michael had never played it. So We were really excited to introduce him, but Lang was very anti any of the expansions, so we could only play the
mini games are like my favorite part of the game.
A purist.
Yeah, he is
want
definitely
this
a purist.
version. I cannot find it anywhere. So if anyone's listening and has an idea where I can buy this version, let me know because I really want it.
It's tricky. Both of you are offering suggestions that are very hard to get. And
I'm sorry.
I'm going to be the practical person who even just this. I have an old version. You don't even want the old version. You'll want the new version. But my pick is Vegas Showdown, the most Vegas of Vegas games. I don't know. It's in the name.
Vegas, the board game based on the TV show. That's more Vegas.
I don't know, but you're literally, unlike both of you rolling dice, you're literally making a Las Vegas casino floor. You're making the floor plan. I love this game. It's super underappreciated. I'm glad it's back out.
It's a great one.
For a number of years, it was not. It's an auction game where you're auctioning simultaneously for a bunch of different items by outbidding. It's kind of got this worker placement auction kind of mechanic going on, but it's very intuitive, very simple. And then the different rooms are different shapes, and you're fitting them on the floor space so that you're trying to make sure the hallways connect and you can get customers to go to your restaurants and your slot machines and such. And then there's a little bit of a tech tree. So you have to have the appropriate smaller things that lead up to, the high rollers room and different kind of more unique special floor plan options. So that's my personal favorite Vegas themed game. I also want to give a shout out for Casino Yahtzee, if we were just doing dice, from 1986. No one has heard of this thing. Go chase one down if you can. You have? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Of course Corey has.
I was playing games in 86.
Hey, I was too. I owned a copy when I was a little kid, and it was my favorite version of Yahtzee. And I'll give a shout out. It's a real inspiration. Right now, me and Jenna Beasley are working on an expansion character for Mythwind for Open Owl Games. And that is an influence on our design. Not the dice part, but the containers.
Interesting.
So, a little reference there, deep cut. But hopefully I've bought you enough time, Bree.
Yes.
Bree, do you have a choice of best board games?
I do. And in fact, I'm on the Daryl side of things with both not a dice game and a game that's readily available.
Hey.
My choice is Wits and Wagers Las Vegas Edition.
Oh yeah.
Which I would argue that any Wits and Wagers would fit this category, but the Las Vegas Edition specifically because it adds a feeling of like bidding, like you're playing craps, right? Like you're putting your chips out.
Totally.
It's a party game. It's outside of the theme of the Las Vegas, the bidding. You're given a category. You're trying to guess something numeric about, and then you're trying to put them. You're putting them in order. You're bidding on whether where people are on the different parts of the board, and getting payouts once all of the answers are revealed. Like who you think got it closest? Do you think got it right?
I love that you don't actually have to be knowledgeable. Like you don't have to know the answer to the trivia and still have a fun time. Yeah. But my all-time favorite thing to do during that game is pretend I really know, so that everyone bets on my
drive everybody to
everyone like, oh, I know this, and then everyone bets wrong.
That's how
that sounds like that sounds like a you strategy for sure.
That's my business strategy in every company.
My aunt calls that the football game because it looks like a football field.
So, I guess I could see that. Yeah. I did think while you were talking though, I did think of another game that I haven't played, but that sort of speaks to me as a poker player that I am interested in trying, which is The Gang.
Yeah.
And I feel like
the only reason I didn't put it in is I talked about it last week.
I haven't played, want to.
Yeah. So. Corey, don't you agree that The Gang is better than The Crew?
No.
That's past trauma.
We go watch our first episode, you all, if you don't get that joke. But Corey's very emphatic.
I would love to play The Gang with you. I will point out that I originally, the very first time I ever played The Crew was with Corey. So at the first Next Tower West.
Hey,
there you go.
Yeah,
game
we
is
were in the
an
sports book.
excellently designed game. It is.
What
so
are
fun.
some other Vegas themes that we didn't? I know we brainstormed a few. What did we miss?
So there is the actual game called Las Vegas.
Yep.
Which the main reason I know about it is not because I live in Vegas, but because I've heard a lot of people compare the Arcane Wonders game Dice Manor to it.
Yeah.
Which it does have some similarities.
And they made a card game version of Las Vegas.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
Lords
cool.
of Vegas is a real popular one. And it always mind bends me.
You.
Yeah. It always breaks my brain because it's not about scoring every round. It's just sometime during the game getting one awesome score. Because whatever's your highest score you ever do is your score.
So actually Las Vegas Royale is like the new version of Las Vegas. It's just basically Las Vegas with like all the new mini games.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then I know Welcome to had a Vegas expansion or a Vegas version.
And Vabank, Leo Colavini and Bruno Fedudi did that. Did Vabank, and there's so many Vegas expansions for weird things. Hiroshima Hex has a Vegas army.
Really?
Zombies, famously with like 5 exclamation points, has a Vegas expansion. It's cool. I went deep dive into Vegas themed games.
I love it.
So I think
did you come across any that you wanted to try that you haven't played?
That's not fair. I want to try all of them. I always want. All right. So we're winding up the episode. Let's go ahead and just say who we are, where people can find us, what our links and social media and all the normal stuff is.
Bree, please, you're our guest. Please go first.
Absolutely. So I'm Bree Goldman. I am marketing manager for Arcane Wonders. You can find me personally at Board Game Bree on most platforms, and Arcane Wonders at Arcane Wonders on all social media platforms.
I'm Corey Thompson, so Above Board TV is on YouTube, just as Above Board TV. DicetowerDish.com is an interview website I do with board game designers where we sit down and have a meal for people as interesting as Daryl. And Board Games Insider is inside story of the business of board games that I co-host with Stephen Bonacore and Ignacy Chebicek.
Cool.
I'm Beneeta Kaur. You can find me everywhere on socials at Beneeta_K. And make sure you're following along because I will be going on very cool places for the next month. So no streaming for a little bit besides the Nerdabout Show, but watch all my World Series of Board Gaming, Essen, and cool things on Instagram.
Love it. Daryl Andrews, you can find me on Facebook and X and Instagram, all that. And I'm going to give a shameless plug because it just came in the mail. I got this little cute plushie.
Oh my god! So
from Miss Wind, and finally got my copy of Miss Wind from First Fish Games. So I'm very excited to now finally get to play a non-prototype version.
Fantastic!
Yay.
And worth noting that we're working on a game with Daryl also. Leyline's coming out in 2025.
Fantastic! I'm so excited.
Yes. Very excited.
Yeah, if you want another shameless plug, if you want to see a VOD, a video on demand, we played it on my channel a few weeks ago. So go see it over on Twitch.
I feel so left out.
We can play it, Corey. We'll play it somewhere exotic.
Okay.
We'll play it like Essen, maybe.
Helsinki.
But speaking about Essen, that is our next show. Next Tuesday, September 24th, we are going to be talking about Essen. As always, we will be at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you tune in, and we will obviously have a special guest. So stay tuned. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you later, everyone.
Adios, amigos.